Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the IRB Infrastructure Developers Conference call for discussing the unaudited financial results for the quarter ended September 2021 and recent developments. We have with us on the call today Mr. Virendra Maiskar, Mr. Sudhir Hoshing, Mr. Dhananjay Joshi, Mr. Anil Yadav, Mr. Mehul Patel, Ms. Poonam Nishal, and Mr. Tushar Kavedia from IRB. From the Sintra team, we are joined by Mr. Carlos Ugarte, and from the Avener Capital, we have Mr. Rajkamal Bajaj and Mr. Shivam Bajaj on the call. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode. And after the opening remarks by the management, there will be a question and answer session. Please note that the duration of the call will be 45 minutes, and any queries left unanswered after the call can be subsequently mailed to the management for adequate response and resolution. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand over the conference to Mr. Maiskar to give you an overview of the significant developments during the quarter. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
A very good evening to all of you. A warm welcome to all the stakeholders. We had our second quarter results today, and the same were promising for our view, given the fact that it's a monsoon quarter and we have continued impact of the second wave of COVID. The detailed presentation for the same is already on the website, and my team will be happy to take questions from you on it later. Over the last 2 years, the company achieved many successes, the prominent being the winning back of the Mumbai-Pune TOT, country's largest, entering HAM projects, winning the first BOT in the state of Bengal under the new model concession agreement, to name a few. However, limited availability of capital and great opportunities required the company to access debt capital markets, increasing financial burden. COVID, land availability, and other force majeure events restricted the cash flow availability for the business model, reducing EPC cash flow generation and dividends. Now, as we return to growth and look at the strong initiatives of the government to bring in private sector in infra development in a meaningful way, we thought it necessary to prepare for it in right earnest. We realized we needed to address the twin issues of reducing debt meaningfully and also have substantial growth capital for foreseeable future. But while bringing in capital, we also wanted to ensure we bring in the best names to the IRB family who can help us sharpen our focus further and are strong all-weather friends who believe in our value generation philosophy and would have the appetite for more as we grow from here on. We are more than delighted to announce that the board today has approved issue of equity shares by means of preferential allotment to Sintra, a 100% subsidiary of the $23 billion global infra major Ferrovial, to the extent of 24.9%. We are also extremely happy to announce that we will also be allotting equity shares by preferential allotment to one of the largest sovereign wealth funds, GIC Singapore, by which their holding in the company will increase to approximately 19.9%. Total amount of up to 5,347 crores will be raised as a part of this exercise. The post-deal shareholding will constitute the existing promoter holding to come down to approximately 34%, while continuing to have management control of the company, and will also continue to be the single largest shareholder of the company. We are very happy to welcome Ferrovial into India. It's worth mentioning that it's their maiden investment in not only India but the whole of Asia. While they have significant presence in Europe, UK and USA, they had no investment in Asia so far. We deeply appreciate their endeavor to choose India among all of Asia for their first investment in the region and for bestowing their confidence on IRB within India to make this foray. As regards GIC, you are already aware that they have already invested 4,400 odd crores in our private investment trust and are already our existing shareholders, and this further investment by them in the company's listed shares is a further stamp of confidence on the robust business model of IRB. From the issue proceeds, we intend to deleverage the holding company debt and working capital to the extent of 3,500 crores. Approximate 1,500 crores will be kept as growth capital for upcoming opportunities of at least 20,000 crores, and the balance 350 odd crores will be utilized for general corporate purposes and issue expenses. If I look at the net debt to EBITDA on the construction segment itself, the pre-deal 3.6 net debt to EBITDA ratio will come down to 0.2. The net interest coverage ratio at the standalone and construction segment will increase from 1.9 to 4.7. Overall, if I look at the consolidated net debt to EBITDA, the ratio will come down from 4.7 to 3.2, and the interest coverage will improve from 2 to 2.8. Net debt to equity on a consolidated basis will also significantly improve from 2.1 to 1.2. The strategy we initiated in 2017 by sponsoring the first public InvIT provided IRB a platform to churn the capital. This strategy was further strengthened in 2019 by sponsoring the private InvIT, which enhanced the business model by getting a recurrent investor for reducing equity commitment, thus increasing the ability to take in more projects at one time. The current transaction, which addresses the twin objectives of deleveraging the holding company debt and providing growth capital, is the final step in optimizing the capital structure, unleashing free cash flow generation for growth, thus increasing immense shareholder value. We can now surely say that we are a future-ready company, best-in-class investors who will help us sharpen our business practices and also provide the financial strength required to grow meaningfully. We thank the incoming investors for their commitment and look forward to a fulfilling and exciting journey ahead for all our stakeholders. I would also like to thank our advisors and the entire deal team for all the efforts that they have taken in a time-bound manner to make this deal happen. I believe I have given all the details of the transaction to all of you. I would now request to open the floor for question and answer.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handset while asking questions. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. To ask a question, please press star and 1. The first question is from the line of Parikshit Kandpal from HDFC Securities. Please go ahead.
Hi, Virendra sir. Congratulations on this iconic deal. First time in India we are seeing such a large dividend.
Sorry to interrupt, Parikshit, but your voice is a bit feeble, so if you can just speak a bit louder, please.
Hello, is it better now?
Yes, much better. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So congratulations, VDM sir, for closing this deal, the iconic deal in the Indian road sector. So our first question was, after this deal happens, are we looking at non-road segments also, like in other? So National Monetization Pipeline has got so many different segments. So will we consider diversifying into other segments, or roads will primarily be our focus area?
No. I think we will be only focusing on road development. Yes, I understand the question where it's coming from, but the partnership and the strategy here on is only to remain focused on roads.
Okay. The second question is, can Cintra now in India, so this IRB platform will be the only platform, or they can have competing or parallel platforms with other players, or can they directly also invest in India? So what's the thought process around that?
Carlos, you want to take that?
Can you repeat? I didn't understood well the question, so I only hear Cintra. So if you can put it.
Yeah.
You know.
So I'll repeat my question, sir. So my question was, for Cintra, will the investments in India be largely done through the IRB platform, or are you open to look at other opportunities, competing opportunities with other developers, or also directly whether you are looking to have exposure in India? So just wanted your thoughts on that. Hello.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's better. Yeah. So did you get my question, Andreas?
Yeah, I did get your question. Yeah. So investing in IRB infrastructure developer for Synchro presents a great opportunity to expand our market. We have been looking at different big markets other than the U.S. We are mainly focused on the U.S. On the road sector, and we analyzed like 2 or 3 big markets in the world, and we decided that India was the most promising market to tackle with. And to go to a market like India, which is a very complex market and growth, you have to go with the best in the market, and that's why we decided to go, and understand the market first, buy a position, and go with IRB. So we have no intention to tackle the market outside the IRB platform for the time being. So right now, our intention is to learn from IRB on this market, help them get the best practices and know-how that we have as a worldwide developer, adapt or help in ESG policies to bring the company to be the best in the market, and so far that's our intention. We don't want we are not I would say so arrogant to believe that we can just came to a big and developed market. India is a big and developed market in the infrastructure and on the P3 market, so private-public partnership, and think that we can just do it without the help of the leader in the market. And that's why I think this is a terrific opportunity for us, and we're very thankful of IRB that they have opened the door for us to learn from India with them.
Okay. Thank you, Andrea. So just last question, VD sir. So what kind of credit lines does this transaction open us for on the debt side? So now we have enough equity and growth capital, and we are also looking at deleveraging, and we have been on a deleveraging exercise for the last 2-3 years. So what kind of credit line does this transaction open up for us?
So I will try to simplify this. If I look at IRB as a business model, we have 2 investment trusts. Both are on autopilot. They are self-sufficient, generating positive cash flow. We have 7 assets in IRB which have been generating positive cash flows. There is no stress in any of those. They are doing well for themselves. We had holding company debt, which is now going to get significantly prepaid. And plus, as I explained, we will have almost 1,500 crores worth of growth capital available to look at the new opportunities. I will try to give you a simple math which will give you the idea of what kind of growth power will be unleashed as a result of this 1,500 crores of growth capital. If I look at a BOT project of say size 1,000 crores, usually you would have a 650 crores of debt on a conservative basis and 350 crores of equity. We already have a private InvIT where we have the option of selling down up to 49% equity to our partners, and that would reduce IRB's equity commitment to around 175 crores in a project size of 1,000 crores. As you very well know, IRB executes its project and does the construction of the same and has a decent construction margin. If you go by the past records of 10% PAT margin, you will generate around 100 crores of construction profit while you do 1,000 crores of project. So your net equity requirement of the project, if you redeploy the construction profit, would be around 75 crores, which is around 7.5% of your project cost. So if we decide that the surpluses from private InvIT, public InvIT, and the existing standalone projects in IRB are only to be used to accumulate cash for dividending it out or for the deleveraging purpose, then the 1,500 crores extrapolated to assume 7.5% equity commitment to be made from them will catapult you to give an opportunity size of almost 20,000 crores of projects where this growth capital can be deployed and that size of projects can be comfortably executed by the company.
Okay. Understood, sir. Thanks a lot and wish you all the best. Again, congratulations on this deal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question is from the line of Vibhor Singhal from Phillip Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Good evening, sir. Thanks for taking my question, and congrats again on this great occasion of raising this capital. I think, sir, as you rightly mentioned, it's probably one of the largest fundraise in the road segment by any company in India. So just wanted one kind of a fundamental question and then a couple of bookkeeping questions which I'll probably ask later. Sir, in terms of, as you mentioned just to Parikshit's question, that we will only be focusing on road segment. So any change in our, let's say, stance towards the road segment now that we have got so much capital at our disposal, our standalone debt is also significantly reduced? Because as we have seen, sir, I think the BOT opportunity from the NHAI has been tapering off over the past 3-4 years. We have projects are there, but I think as we have seen, there is too much of competition and small players are also getting into that segment as well. So any shift in focus for, let's say, we, of course, I'm sure we're moving towards state BOT projects also, but those opportunities are also few and far between. So I'm just trying to understand that with Ferrovial and the GIC group coming on board, how are we going to whet their appetite of such a big opportunity with the opportunity reducing in the road segment itself?
I get your question, but I partly disagree with your thought that the opportunities are decreasing, because after the new model concession agreement has been announced, the government has been on a awarding spree. They have already come out with 2 BOT projects in Bengal, one of which was won by IRB itself. And now they have announced another 2 projects in Maharashtra, again 4 to 6 lane projects worth almost 4,000 crore. And what we hear from them is increasingly looking at the confidence and the participation that is coming back in the BOT. More and more BOT projects will get announced is what we get to hear from them. TOT project pipeline also looks very, very significantly promising. So to answer your question, the waterfall mechanism in terms of our preference will continue to be BOT, TOT, HAM and EPC. And in terms of significant deleveraging that is happening, yes, our competitive advantage with the lower interest outgo, it will also be allowing us to sharpen our bidding strategy in the HAM sector. So certainly we will also look at the HAM opportunities in a right earnest.
Got it. And sir, would we be open to any EPC projects? But as a part of waterfall mechanism, as you mentioned, it probably being the last leg of the entire stairs ladder. But let's say if there is a very good project, large size project where margins are lucrative, would we be open to pure EPC projects also?
I don't see that we reaching that last part of the waterfall because the opportunities in the BOT, TOT itself will be so many that I don't think we will have to really dive below that.
Got it, sir. And sir, any update on the Ganga Expressway bidding that would be, what stage is it in right now? And do you foresee that being awarded before the elections in UP?
No, I think you need to ask the UP Chief Secretary this question.
Okay, sure, sir. So just a couple of bookkeeping questions. So sir, what is the timeline that we are expecting for this transaction to get completed?
We should be able to wrap up this transaction in this calendar year.
Okay, so let's say by March next year, we should be able to wrap up this transaction.
Repeat, this calendar year.
Yeah, so March next year, March FY20. So FY22 is what we are looking at. Oh, calendar year, I'm so sorry. Right, got it. So sorry. And then just to reiterate, we are looking at, let's say, approximately 24.9% stake for the Central Group and 15.9% stake for the GIC Group. And both have been issued the shares at a price of 212 rupees per share.
Yes, 211.79 preferential allotment, 2 separate preferential allotments, independent of each other, to Centra and GIC. That's correct.
So put together, we are looking at almost 25.2 crores new shares to be issued.
Yes. If we look at the total transaction happening together, we should be having around 60.39 crores paid up shares.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sure, sir. Great, sir. Thank you so much for taking my questions, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question is from the line of Ashish Shah from Centrum Broking. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, sir, and congratulations to the whole team for this one-of-its-kind transaction. Sir, first question is that will this transaction attract an open offer, given that we are going to be giving board seats to the incoming investors?
No, I don't think so. It is very clear they are minority shareholders, and each of them is an independent preferential allotment. They are not PACs, and very clearly none of them is crossing the 25% mark.
Sure. Right. So secondly, just wanted to understand now, we have an InvIT with GIC, where the thought process was to look in at early stage assets, since the public InvIT could not take the early stage assets. Now with GIC and Cintra also coming in at the parent company, what will be our stance? As in, what would be now the position of the private InvIT?
Yeah, good question. I think the thought process is very clear. So the public InvIT will continue to offer the completed HAM projects and look at churning the assets by selling them down to the public InvIT. That the strategy will remain. And with the recurrent investor at the private InvIT level, as I explained earlier, all the BOT, TOT opportunities we would like to show to the private InvIT platform, and if feasible, we would like to reduce our overall equity commitment by getting them on board those projects. And then execution and the balance equity commitment for all the upcoming projects will be catered to from IRB platform.
Right. So basically the waterfall in terms of the decision making is that if you are bidding for a new BOT asset, will that be first offered to the private InvIT, or it will be first with IRB at subsequent stage you may think of putting it in private?
See, I mean, from an execution standpoint, it might happen so that it might be executed in IRB where we put in equity in the same proportion and then transfer it on completion to the private InvIT in lieu of units to both the partners. But that will be a executional convenience. But the ethos and the strategy of 5149 will definitely be in place.
Right. So the private InvIT structure will continue to remain. It's something which is not.
Yes. See, because private InvIT provides us with a platform where we can grow more faster, because we have an investor who's willing to take up to 49% equity in those projects. So our ability to bid more and execute more goes up significantly. While the construction advantage and construction opportunity will continue to remain with IRB. So that platform is a very, very complementing platform for IRB's growth.
Okay, sure. Also, the airport at Sindhudurg, now that it is operational and you already started flights, so any thought process on that? Where will that asset remain? Will that be sold off? It will continue to remain with us?
The thought process is clear. We wanted to complete the asset and make it operational. It will continue to be a non-core asset for us. As a result, as and when we find suitable buyer, we will definitely discuss of hiving it off.
Right. And sir, we also have one of the parts of the deal where we are looking at hiving off non-core assets to the promoters. So, given that already we are having adequate capital from this transaction, any particular reason why that transaction is to be undertaken?
The strategy is very simple. We want to take non-core assets out of the balance sheet, and as promoters, we were interested in acquiring those assets, and hence we have agreed to buy those assets over a period of 2 years.
Right. And lastly, how much holdco debt remains in the EPC arm after the repayment of 3250 crores of debt?
If I remember right, around 5,500 crores was the total debt. around 3,500 crores of that will get paid off. So the dollar bond debt of 2,200 and another 400 crores from another lender. So around close to 3,000 crores is what will remain. But that debt is self-liquidating in terms of specific cash flows linked to them.
Got it. Fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question is from the line of Mohit Kumar from DAM Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello. Good evening, sir, and congratulations on the massive deal. I think it's one of the largest deal in the road sector this fiscal year. So my question is, does your growth ambition changes materially post the deal? In the sense, let's say looking at some X amount of growth, are you willing to are looking at a much higher growth with the new growth capital and lower deleveraging? And related question is, does it mean, given the fact that GIC and Cintra are on the board, does it mean that the dividend will increase as we go forward?
It will be a balance of both. What I can say is we see a lot of aggression in certain pockets of the market, and we want to be very cautious and ensure that we are able to generate decent amount of profits for our shareholders. So keeping that perspective in mind, we will try to grow faster. So yes, the firepower that the company now gets definitely puts it much ahead in the overall competitive scenario to augur the opportunities that come up. But at the same time, we will be very meaningful in terms of meaningfully careful that we don't want to commit ourselves to something where reasonable returns are not guaranteed. So we will be very cautious and choosy on that part. And balancing out both these things, we will deploy the capital that we have. And as I said in the earlier math, we now have a 20,000 crore of order book expansion growth capital available. And this is without touching the surpluses from private InvIT, public InvIT, and the assets that sit out of IRB. So that pool of cash certainly continues to remain available for catering to the shareholder dividend requirements.
Okay. So secondly, on the fact that in the presentation I see that it says that the two transactions are subject to execution of definitive documents, and if it doesn't happen on time, it will reduce to the amount to reduce to INR 43 billion or 44 billion. Can you please explain
Yes. To explain it in a very simplistic manner, I would say that as I clarified earlier, there is no open offer happening here. These are minority shareholding positions. Both of them are taking independently. So as you understand, when the regulatory approvals come through, you have to conduct the allotment in a very time-bound manner. So in an unlikely situation where one of them gets the approval and the other one gets delayed, we don't want to have any situation of them crossing the 25% mark. And from that perspective, this particular minimum and maximum numbers have been stipulated. It's a very remote situation to my mind, but that's a safeguard that has been built into by the investors while seeking the opportunity.
So lastly, on the given the fact that GIC and Cintra are on the board, does it mean that TOT will get much higher priority in bidding compared to, let's say, BOT and EPC?
No, to my mind, because our forte has been construction, and BOT will always remain the top priority, after which it will be TOT.
And what about HAM? Are we interested in HAM, or do you think it will take a back seat?
Sequence will not change, so it will always be BOT, TOT, HAM in that preference.
And so, what do you make out of the Ganga Expressway? Do you think it is you would like to participate in the bidding?
We are still studying the bid, so too early in the day to comment anything on it.
Understood, sir. Thank you, sir, and best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question is from the line of Love Sharma from Lombard Odier Investment Management. Please go ahead.
Hi. Thank you, Mr. Maheshwar and everybody. Thanks for the
sorry to interrupt, Love, but can you speak slightly louder because your voice is...
Sure, yeah. Is this better now?
Yes, much better. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mr. Maheshwar, and everybody else on the call. Just one quick question. I think you elaborated about deleveraging at the holding company, which is likely to be around 3,500 crores. I just wanted to understand, in terms of the debt which has been earmarked, I believe this will be local onshore bank debt. So could you just elaborate further on that? And plus, now, is there any other further deleveraging plans which you have outlined going forward, especially from the asset sales to the promoters?
You are right. The debt repayment will be primarily domestic debt. The dollar bond that we raised early this year is not something we are looking to prepay. That is a self-liquidating asset and a debt, and that would continue on the books.
Okay. And how about the asset monetization, the non-core assets which you outlined? How much of amount or proceeds you are expected to get from those over the next 2 years?
So around 450 to 420 crores as promoters we will be putting into the company to buy those non-core assets. And other than that, as I explained, we will continue to explore the possibility of hiving off the airport asset as well.
Understood. So the 450 crore quantum, does it include the sort of estimated value for the airport assets?
No. This is only for the two specific assets. Part of the land and the Chandivali property is what we will be as promoters paying 420 crores for acquiring those two assets and stake. If we are able to sell off the airport asset, that will be further amount that will come into the company. That is not a part of this.
Understood. And just going forward, just to understand the leverage targets which you have in mind going forward, could you elaborate where do you see the leverage trending towards from here?
Interesting question. We have not put a new target on it, but the way the cash flows are going to size up, I think the leverage will continue to remain low because we are going to reach a very, very interesting scenario where we have growth capital which takes care for our growth for next couple of years. And by that time, the private InvIT assets also would start generating meaningful cash. Mumbai-Pune is already cash positive. And in such a situation, even if we decide to grow in a reasonably good pace, I don't think the leverage will anytime get off hand now. I think we will be very, very well capitalized to look at growth without significantly increasing the leverage ratios.
Understood. Perfect. No, that's very, very clear and very, very, very helpful to understand these details. Thanks again, and congrats on the transaction.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we take the next question, we would request all the participants to limit their questions to 2 per participant. Due to time permitting, you may return to the queue for your follow-up questions. Next question is from the line of Tina Vermani from Kotak Institutional Equities. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Congratulations on the deal. My question is regarding the future strategy for bidding for projects. Like when the GIC deal happened initially for the private InvIT, you mentioned that there will be couple of projects wherein you will be bidding jointly, and we have seen that also in past 1 or 2 projects wherein GIC has partnered with IRB. Now, going forward for bidding for the new projects, will there be a partnership of Cintra and GIC along with IRB to bid for projects, or it is the growth capital which they have provided and IRB will be bidding on its own?
No. I think IRB will be bidding on its own. They have already put in capital into the company. And as I made clear earlier, the recurrent platform of private InvIT continues to remain available for growth. So any BOT asset or TOT asset, definitely we will show the opportunity to the private InvIT, and if that makes sense, then we will develop that project from that particular platform. We might execute it on the same principle of 5149 and then transfer it to the, but that particular opportunity will remain. I don't think that we are discussing of a triangular asset level investment at this point in time.
Okay, got it. And regarding your deleveraging plan, there is still some amount which is pending from the private InvIT regarding cost escalations which had happened. So would that also contribute to deleveraging going forward once that amount is received?
Yes, certainly. All the claim debt and cost overrun claims that we would be having on the clients, all that debt coming back will be a significant bump up to the IRB cash flows in next 3 to 5 years.
Okay, got that, sir. Got that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Next question is from the line of Rohit from Antique Stock Broking. Please go ahead.
Thank you for this opportunity. Congratulations on the deal. Sir, my question is on the 20,000 crore growth capital that you said. You have given a timeline that within 2 years this will be deployed. So essentially, we are looking at 10,000 crore of order inflow every year.
I don't think I said 2 years. I just said that the 1,500 crore amount does give us a firepower to look at assets up to 20,000 crores. If your wish comes true and if you are able to deploy it in 2 years, nothing like that. But that's the kind of firepower we would have with us.
My second question is more on the TOT monetization plans. Is there Mumbai-Pune TOT? Do you have any asset monetization or stake dilution on cards as of now?
So if you look at, we have always participated in all the earlier NHAI TOTs, although we have been very cautious bidders like what we have been in Mumbai-Pune. So we would continue to cautiously bid for those TOTs, and if they make and if they are able to generate good returns, then we would certainly look at dipping into those opportunities as well.
No, sir. My question is more to do with the stake sale within the Mumbai-Pune TOT. Do you plan to open up this particular, this current stake that you have to some, maybe GIC or maybe to private InvIT? Do you see something like that?
No, I don't. We don't have any plans of selling stake in Mumbai-Pune to either public InvIT or private InvIT for now.
Sure, sir. That's it from my side. Should there be any questions, I'll get back in the queue.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question is from the line of Bharani Vijay Kumar from Spark Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, sir. So if I understand right, our existing promoter shareholding of around 59% is going to get diluted to around 34% post the deal. Is that right, sir?
That's correct.
And in the presentation, we mentioned there will be a 66% overall shareholding by others. So that will include Cintra and GIC post the deal.
That is right.
Okay. And in the future, when we are bidding for BOT projects, it will be IRB infrastructure developers which will be bidding.
Absolutely right.
So at the SPV level, there will be only IRB infrastructure developers who will be holding the equity.
To begin with, yes. If we decide to develop that particular opportunity in the private InvIT platform, then for that particular project, the equity holding can be 51 IRB and 49 GIC affiliates.
Okay. So at the SPV level, there is a possibility that GIC, would bring in equity later at that stage.
Yes, I mean that is what has been our stated position, that any new BOT and TOT project, we would be certainly showing them to the private InvIT, and if it garners interest, then the same will be executed on a 51-49 principle.
Okay. And in some sense, this looks like GIC, being interested in BOT also, which is why they are doing this, because predominantly it's private InvIT where they already have 51% stake. They are most likely to have more of or almost all HAM projects?
I mean, I would not be the right person to comment on that.
Okay. Okay. No, because I'm trying to understand this 1,500 crore investment from GIC. You know, they could have done this through the private entity itself if they.
I think GIC has been a shareholder in IRB for now more than 5 years. And as a shareholder, they have been in the listed company for more than 5 years. They have some stake in the public InvIT as well.
Understood, sir. Okay. Sure, sir. All the best and talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question is from the line of Prem Khurana from Anand Rathi. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for taking my question, sir, and congratulations on the transaction. So just, to begin with, would you be able to kind of remind us how much is the equity pending for the existing set of projects, and when you say this 1,500 odd crore rupees is earmarked from this transaction for equity commitments, would this 1,500 crore be available for the existing set of projects as well, or this is purely for the new project that you would go and bid for now?
If you look at the cash on hand, I think that sufficiently takes care of the equity commitment for the project which we already have. And this 1,500 crores will certainly cater to the equity requirements of further 20,000 crores of projects.
Sure. And let's say, once we've exhausted 1,500 odd crore rupees, would you go for incremental, would the partners be willing to kind of infuse more to kind of look at more opportunities, or again, we would start leveraging to a certain extent our balance sheet so that the growth continues?
It will need to be looked at in a perspective where we have a sizable portfolio of projects in the private InvIT, which are in the last leg of completion of the execution phase. So over next 2 to 3 years, as those assets stabilize, we have already delivered those assets significantly. So those assets will also start pumping surplus cash. Plus, Mumbai-Pune will be a cash flow positive project, which will be adding cash to the company's reserves. So, to my mind, further incremental capital will not be necessary once this 1,500 crores get deployed over next reasonable time frame. And those surpluses will keep giving the firepower for the company to grow in a meaningful manner.
Sure. On the operations side, I think last year we had 3 new projects and we've recently been able to manage this Thachur as well. Any sense on the appointed dates? I think we were expecting appointed dates for a couple of projects in September itself, but seems to have been delayed for some reason. So if you could just share your thoughts on these new projects and how do you see appointed dates going to start coming for us now on these projects?
I think the Bengal project which we backed on BOT, there is almost 98% land is already available, and we are in the final stages of achieving the financial closure and taking it forward. As regards the Baroda-Mumbai Expressway package on HAM is concerned, we are expecting the appointed date to come in by end of this month as per our discussions with NHAI. And Chittoor-Thachur is the HAM project which we have backed just now. So the concession agreement also is yet to be signed. There is still time for achieving financial closure on that one.
Sure. And just one last, with your permission, on this transaction again, 600 odd crore rupees for general corporate purposes seem to be on a higher side, and also, this, given the fact that we're expecting around 400 odd crore rupees also to come from the promoters once the transaction is taken care of for the Chandivali asset. So this 1,000 odd crore rupees, or especially the 600 odd crore rupees of general corporate purposes, possible to share more light on this general corp? What all would get classified as general corporate purposes, please?
Yeah. So don't you think it's a good problem to have?
Yeah, it is very good problem, which is why I want to understand, because when we build our model, we would have to kind of take into account whether this would be again used for growth or something of similar sorts.
Yes. So once we figure out the exact strategy for deploying those funds, we will definitely keep you posted.
Sure, sir. Thank you, and all the very best for future. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Next question is from the line of Ankita Shah from Elara Capital. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Many congratulations on the deal. Sir, apart from the funding that we will get from the incoming partners, is there any more competency or capabilities that they can bring into the company?
I think if we look at Syntra's global experience, I think it certainly will add a lot of value to us in terms of improving our systems, processes, execution strategies, bidding on new projects. They will definitely bring in a lot of value add, and that certainly will benefit the company in a very, very meaningful way. I have Carlos also here with me. Carlos, would you like to add some more insight into how you can help us improve from here on?
Yeah. Okay. Syntra, I've been for the audience, I've been in Syntra for more than 20 years. I started in Syntra when Syntra first went out of Spain into Latin America, and they hired me there. I am from Chile. No, I'm not from Spain. And we developed an investment in Latin America of around 1,000 miles and one airport in Chile, and then I went into the U.S. into opening the U.S. In the meantime, I opened Australia, Colombia, and other markets. So we in all the markets we have opened or we have gone, we have seen that with our extended experience, this Syntra is one of the companies that is most old in the BOT market. Actually, our first road was awarded in 1968 in Spain, and so we have seen that most of the market have the same problem or same characteristics in which we can add value. So we will add value, as Mr. Meister said, in the processes. We will add value helping Mr. Meister from our experiences, best practices in bidding, in analyzing different opportunities, in traffic analysis, in cost of operation analysis. Obviously, we have to be humble and look at this the successful of IRB in this in the company in the concessions they have already, but we can bring some better practices, some ESG, better practices on ESG, as I told before. In the bidding side, on traffic, financing, structuring, and also operational, procedures. And so I think from now on, as a minority shareholder, our aim is to help the company to improve their system to be the number one in all the areas of I would say HAM, BOT, and TOT in India. So we have a successful investment, and we're willing to send some of our best people to work as advisors and help the company in these different areas.
Oh, that's good. Thank you. Also, sir, given that there is a robust activity on the awarding side that is mentioned, would you be able to share some highlight on the order inflow targets for this full year, this full financial year?
I'm not clear with your question.
So given that you've mentioned there is a good opportunity pipeline available in BOT and TOT for this year, so order inflow guidance for this financial year, or how much you target to achieve in?
I wouldn't choose today to give you that guidance, but it will predominantly depend on dates for the bids not getting postponed. So visibility looks good. As I said, there are 2 BOTs announced by NHAI. There are a couple of state BOT projects. There are 3 or 4 TOT projects, all out for bidding. So, but we will have to carefully evaluate all of them and decide on what to get into and how much we want to rope in. So I wouldn't give you a number today, but we are very carefully evaluating all of these.
Got it. Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we will take our last question for today, which is from Aditya Mongia from Kotak Securities. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity, and congratulations to all of you. I think the business model of IRB is actually now truly on an autopilot mode, and I'm actually finding it difficult to ask questions. I'll still try my luck. Mr. Matkar, congratulations once again. The question that I wanted to kind of ask you is more from the perspective of this business actually now being in an autopilot mode as a promoter and as part of the senior management team. Where do you want to deploy this bandwidth of yours and the senior management team? What do you envisage an IRB doing incrementally over the next 5 to 10 years? I just thought I'd get that perspective from you now that we are truly at a stage wherein we can do great things. Thank you.
Aditya, thank you. You very, very appropriately worded it that we are now, with this kind of capital raise, we are on an autopilot mode. All the individual elements of the business will be on autopilot mode. And the focus, as far as I am concerned, will be now, along with our newly added technical know-how that we will be able to get, the focus will be on sharpening the systems, sharpening the bidding acumen, looking very, very carefully on reducing the financing cost, exploring newer structures of financing, and overall improving the profitability of the existing projects and deploying capital to ensure that they are profitable projects and will bring in value to the company. So I think this will be the large focus area where we will now concentrate our attention.
So thank you for that answer. The second question that I'm now kind of grappling with, and you have kind of given a subjective answer, but wanted to get slightly more objective. You have a $3 billion kind of growth capital, and probably more of your if you were to leverage or lever up at a standalone level. But I'd say the $3 billion kind of growth capital, what is the timeline that you see over which this can be deployed in roads? Because if status quo remains, my sense is it will take anywhere between 5 to 10 years for you to be deploying this capital.
If you look at the past few years of IRB's growth, we have been roping in orders of at least $1 to $1.5 billion a year. So if I go by that track record, bringing in orders worth $3 billion worth of orders, I think we should be able to rope in those kind of orders in 2 to 3 years, and another 2 to 2.5 years for executing those. So yes, I think we have a very, very strong visibility for next 5 years.
Because that's why I think 3 to 5 years as a horizon in a reasonable case scenario. And again, congratulations to the entire team, and happy to be a part of this call. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I now hand over the proceedings to Mr. Maiskar for any closing comments. Over to you, sir.
Thanks all of you for being here on this call, and we would look forward to meet you again very soon on closure of the transaction. And Carlos and the deal team, thank you all of you for taking time out and being here with me for this presentation. And we wish you a very happy Diwali and New Year ahead. Thanks once again, and have a great evening.
Thank you very much, members of management. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes your conference call for today. We thank you for your participation and for using ResearchBytes conferencing services. You may please disconnect your lines now. Thank you and have a great day.